students in your civil service mains examinations as well as in your preliminary, UPSC includes some new topics in economy, and that is one very important topic, investment model. As you know, this is very technical area, and a number of coaching institutes are neglecting this area. Only they are teaching triple P model, public private participation model. But sometime in your pre and in your mains, they are asking some questions based on previous models which we used in our different 5-year plan. First, I will discuss the different model, what are they. After then I will give you the every 5-year plan model. First of all, first 5-year plan, later on other plan models. These investment model, as you know, investment model. During first plan, we use Harrod and Domer model. Harrod and Domer model of investment. In second plan, there was the PC Mahalanobis model, and during third plan, as you know, when the Janata government were there, 1978 onward, which were terminated after 1 year by the Congress government, alternative model were developed by Dr. C.N. Vakil and P.R. Brahmanand, which were the model based on wage good model known as wage good model, developed by Dr. C.N. Vakil and P.R. Brahmanand and Dr. P.R. Brahmanand. I will also explain Brahmanand. The relevancy of these model and how the UPSC asking questions in your pre as well as mains examinations. And that kinds of model also give you better insight. In again 1991, a new model, that is Rao Manmohan model. Manmohan model of investment. After then, during the 9th plan, as you know, the time period of 9th plan 1997 to 2002, we follow the triple P model or public private partnership model, public private partnership model or participation model. Later on, you can see recent government, Modi ji government, use its own model. You can say Modi model of investment. Modi model of investment. Why I say? Some extent present government, if you observe the government policies, strategy of development, you will see that is a type of mix model. Mix model. I will clarify why this is known as mixed model. Means for the preparations of UPSC, if you go through these kinds of model, you can develop better vision regarding economy. There are some economy teachers who are saying that cram the economy. But I always say understand the economy, learn the economy. If you are going to understand the economy, if you are going to learn the economy, it will provide you better result in your pre, in your mains, because you are the intellectual students who are appearing in civil service. I assume that they are the intellectuals, and if you are not using your brain only following the statement given by different faculties. That is not good. Think yourself. Is it possible to crack the IAS only by cramming the topics? You can crack the PCS by cramming, but it is not possible to crack the civil service exams, IAS exam by cramming the data, etc. But rationally, if you think logically, try to understand the economy, that is GS economy, then definitely you will give the better result. That is why I explain all over the Indian economy on the basis of certain theories, principle, and now you can understand. As I am going to discuss the first model, Harrod and Domer model of investment, which was developed by the post-Keynesian economist just after the Second World War. As you know, after Second World War, the global economy, I am not talking only Indian economy, I am talking this global economy were facing the problem of stagnancy. Stagnancy means one side the problem of inflation, other side the problem of unemployment. For the solution of these kinds of problem or stagnancy, there were the two students of John Maynard Keynes, name is Harrod and Domer. They developed their own model so that they can eliminate the global economy problem of stagnancy. As you know, our government also follow the same model during the first 5 plan, which were started on 1st April 1951 and end on 31st March 1956. What is the crux or what is the basic aspects of this model? What are the technicalities of this model? I would like to discuss with you today and try to understand this topic very rationally, because it is very rationally explain all different kinds of problems which we are facing in economy and their solution and how we can achieve growth with stability. Growth with stability means one side our GDP will increase, other side our price will remaining under the controllable limit. And if the economy increase with full employment growth rate, that is known as steady growth rate. Harrod and Domer. This Harrod and Domer model. Harrod and Domer model of investment. Domer model of investment. These two economists are known as post-Keynesian economists. Post-Keynesian economist, and they develop their own model separately. First you consider the Harrod model, and after I will discuss the Domer model. Both the economists were work on to find out, they were try to find out a rate of investment I is what? That is the rate of investment by which, if what is their target, to find out a rate of investment by which the capital formation and income generation can be equalized. If our capital formation and national income generation are equal, what does it means? Capital formation will determine the aggregate supply in the goods, aggregate supply of goods and services in the economy, whereas aggregate demand determine the demand of these goods and services. If aggregate supply and aggregate demand are equal, then the economy will grow with a steady growth rate. Steady growth rate. That is, steady growth rate means you can say full employment growth rate. Full employment growth with price stability. With price stability, this is the meaning of steady growth rate. Means our these two great economists were research on to find out the rate of investment by which they can achieve both the growth, that is capital formation, that is income generation, equally, so that the economy can achieve the target of a steady growth rate. This is the research work done by these two economists. And if you go through the first Harrod model, how they are explaining his theory, according to Harrod, what he say? He said demand and supply side separately. According to him, if I is the investment, that is I is the investment, S is the productivity of the dollar, I is the investment and S is the productivity of the per dollar, then I investment or delta investment will increase the national income equal to I S delta Y. If I is the investment and S is the productivity of dollar, then delta investment will increase the national income equal to delta Y. That is the explanation given by Harrod. And in supplied side, this is the supplied side of the economy, and in demand side, how he explain, if investment increase in an economy, say I delta I, then it's suppose demand side, he is explaining the demand side on the basis of this delta investment on the basis of multiplier. First you understand what is the concept of multiplier, then I will proceed this again. Suppose you know multiplier K simple 1 upon 1 minus MPC, or you can say MPC means marginal propensity to consume into plus marginal propensity to save are equal to 1. It means if MPS you calculate, it will be equal to 1 minus MPS, and you can say K is the 1 upon MPS, and if I put in place of MPS, that is alpha, then K is equal to 1 upon alpha. What the explanation given by Harrod for the model explanation? He says if delta investment is there, multiplier is delta alpha y 1 upon alpha, then the national income will increase equal to delta y. Delta y. That is what the multiplier into increased investment. In this way, the demand and supply should be equal for the equilibrium of the economy. D is equal to should be equal to IS. As I priorly explained, IS is equal to delta Y. Delta Y. It means if both are equal, you can say this demand and supplied side, that is 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 equal to delta I into 1 upon alpha. He further explained what is the point. When we are doing the new investment in any economy, this new investment always replace the old investment because of it actual productivity of the new investment always less than S, which is represented by sigma, that is social potential. Social potential. And what I conclude according to this model, this sigma is less than S. It means if you go further, as I conclude the two equations, I sigma is equal to delta Y, and that is delta I upon 1 upon alpha is equal to delta Y. What they show, that is the productivity or supplied side economy, that is the demand side economy. This is demand side and this is the supplied side economy. In equilibrium means when our demand and supply are equal, then we will achieve the steady growth rate in our economy. It means if demand is this, supply is this, you can say delta I upon 1 upon alpha is equal to I sigma. That will be the equilibrium state, or you can say the demand equal to supply. If demand and supply are equal, then the economy will grow with a steady growth. Steady growth means full employment growth rate without any inflation, which was the target of the different economy after the Second World War. Now you can analyze this point very easily. Delta I upon I equal to alpha sigma. If our rate of investment, what is delta I upon I? That is the rate of investment. Delta I upon I is the rate of investment. Alpha is the marginal propensity to save. Marginal propensity to save. Whereas this sigma is the productivity of the investment. Now you can understand, if our investment determined by the marginal propensity to save, if you multiplied your savings with productivity, then if it is equal to the rate of investment, then our economy, according to Domer, grow with steady growth. There is no inflation, there is no recession. That kinds of conclusion concluded by Herod by the explanation of that kinds of model. By this model, what is the utility? Prior to understand, just you think, if delta I upon I, that is the rate of investment, equal to alpha, means marginal propensity to save, and sigma, that is the productivity of economy. Productivity, that is nothing else delta Y upon I. Sigma is what? That is delta Y upon I. Means how much productivity investment I will increase the output, that show the productivity of our economy. If that is the achieve steady growth, and if our investment rate delta I upon I is greater than alpha sigma, means a rate of investment is higher than the productivity, and investment means capital formation. You can say this represent capital formation, this represent income generation is greater than capital formation, or you can say aggregate supply of the goods is less than aggregate demand of the goods. That will lead the economy towards the inflation. One point is clear. Second point, you can understand, if our rate of investment delta I upon I is less than alpha sigma. Alpha represent marginal, or you can say if our productivity of the economy and marginal propensity to save, that determine the capital formation and investment determine the national income generation. If capital formation greater means aggregate supply of the goods is greater than aggregate demand of the goods, then it will lead the economy towards recession. Towards recession. On the basis of his explanation, what the Herod conclude? What the Domer conclude? This is Domer model. Domer says that to equalize the both should be the main objective of our economic policy for achieving the target of what? A steady growth rate in our economy. Now you are clear as I explain the Domer model and how this Domer model explain simply if a economy investment rate is just equal to productivity of the economy, propensity to save of the economy, then the economy will grow with a steady growth rate, means full employment growth rate without inflation or recession. If there is the disturbance anywhere, then either the economy will enter in inflationary conditions or recessionary conditions. Now the point is clear. What is the utility of this model? As you know, as I explained you, delta I upon I is equal to alpha sigma. We can calculate the rate of investment on the basis of given propensity to save or saving rate and productivity of the economy. How much we have to invest we can calculate. Suppose our saving rate say 3%, our marginal propensity to save 3%, and say productivity of the economy, say you can calculate the productivity on the basis of investment, or if two variables you know, you can calculate the third variable by assuming suppose our propensity to save say 25%, and productivity of the investment say 1 rupee or $1 can produce $2. $1 can produce $2. Then on the basis of 20 what percent propensity to save, you can calculate the rate of investment which you are needed for achieving the steady growth rate target by simple calculating, that is 25 upon 100, and productivity is what? That is 1:2. It means 12.5% should be the rate of investment in an economy for achieving the target of desired growth rate in our economy. Similarly, you can calculate the other variables. Now come on the second model, that is Herod model. Herod model of investment. Herod also research on a rate of investment by which he is also trying to find out the rate of investment by which we can create capital and national income equally so that we can achieve the target of steady growth rate. Steady growth rate. Steady growth rate. On the basis of his explanation, what he propounded three different equations for the explanation of a steady growth rate. First, actual growth rate in an economy, that is GC is equal to S, where G is the actual growth rate, C is the capital output ratio, G is the actual growth rate, C is the capital output ratio, S is the saving rate, and G define delta Y upon Y capital output ratio I upon delta Y, saving rate S upon Y, S upon Y. If we put all these values of equations, that is delta GC is equal to S, then delta Y upon Y into I upon delta Y is equal to S upon Y. You can cut, or you can say I upon Y is equal to S upon Y, or you can say S equal to I equal to S. Means saving always equal to investment. If saving are equal to investment, what does it means? Economy in equilibrium. Economy in equilibrium. That kinds of conclusion concluded by Harrod by the help of first equation. He given the second equation, that is GW into CR is equal to S, where GW represent warranted growth rate. Warranted means expected growth rate by the entrepreneur in an economy. In which one? National income or in their economy. Warranted growth rate is the desired growth rate, whereas the CR, warranted capital output ratio, warranted capital output ratio, warranted capital output ratio. S again the saving rate. S again is the saving rate. It means this warranted growth rate equal to S upon CR. Means warranted growth rate depends on propensity to save or saving rate and warranted capital output ratio. This is the second equation. On the basis of actual growth rate equations and on the basis of warranted growth rate equation, a student, you have to understand how smartly Harrod explained the conditions of stability in economy, means a steady growth rate or growth rate with full employment, and why the conditions of inflationary and recessionary comes in an economy. He also explained on the basis of his two equations, warranted growth rate equation and actual growth rate equations. Now you can understand these two by the help of these two equations separately. As I discussed, actual growth rate G is equal to S upon C, where you know G actual capital output ratio, actual growth rate, C actual capital output ratio, actual capital output ratio, S is the saving rate, S is the saving rate. No, you know that some extent you are observing this is the technical explanation, but when I apply this explanation on Indian economy, you can understand its relevancy and you can betterly analyze the different questions which you are facing in. There is no direct questions in pre and mains from this model, but there are some indirect questions which are based on this model, which you have to understand after learning this topic. Actually, this is very important topic in economics optional, but why I am teaching in GS economy, so that you can also understand the investment model which is identified in our UPSC syllabus by the Union Public Service Commission. But there is no direct question based on this. If you go through this my explanations which I am discussed with you multiple times, then you can understand the relevancy of this model very easily. That is my commitment. Now come second equation, warranted growth rate, that is GW is equal to S upon SR upon S upon CR. S upon CR. S is what? Saving rate. CR is what? Warranted capital output ratio. Here I down. GW represent warranted capital output ratio. Output ratio. CR represent warranted growth rate, not capital output ratio. This is warranted growth rate and CR is the warranted capital output ratio. This is warranted growth rate, means that is also known as entrepreneur growth rate. If they achieve this growth rate, they will be more happy, they will satisfied with their investment decision and they can justify their investment decisions. As you can see, in present scenario in our economy, a number of entrepreneurs are coming due to government policy of startup, Mudra Bank, and they are calculating if they are investing that amount in the economy, they will generate that kinds of profit per year on the invested capital. That profit depend on their output growth rate, and if they achieve that profit on the basis of their output or growth rate, means they are achieving warranted growth rate, and their calculation based on upon which one? Warranted capital output ratio, CR, that is warranted capital output ratio. Warranted capital output ratio. This warranted capital output ratio in actual depend upon which one? In actual it is depends on the expectations of the entrepreneur, and as you know, entrepreneur expectations based on the government policy. I again code here. As you can see, in our recent interim budget 2024-25, our government determined to increase the capital expenditure 11,11,101 crore rupees. This is the government targeted capital expenditure, means our government boosting the infrastructure development, means national highways, state highways, roadways, railway track, port, airport, etc. Digital infrastructure, social infrastructure, health, education, sanitation, all these kinds of health, digital, physical infrastructure automatically decrease the capital output ratio, means per unit of investment productivity will increase with improving the efficiency through the development of infrastructure. On the basis of that one, our entrepreneurs are taking the investment decisions, means their warranted growth rate they decided to achieve by the level of investment which they are determining on the basis of government policies. As you can see, stability in the government also influencing their decisions, means I am telling you what is the relevancy of this model and why that model till today we are opting as a main model of investment in our private sector as well as government of India. After taking the conclusion, after taking the results of that kinds of model, they are deciding the investment. Now I explain the conditions of steady growth, the conditions of hyperinflation, etc. Think number first possibility, what it is possible in the economy. If CR, first condition, if I take warranted capital output ratio equal to actual capital output ratio. If both are equal, and as you know savings in both model is equal, if I word GW will S upon CR, S is 30% and capital output ratio is 3, then the growth rate will be 10%. Similarly, in this model if you put 30 upon 3, then the growth rate will be 10%. That will be the condition. If actual capital output ratio is equal to warranted capital output ratio, then the warranted growth rate and actual growth rate G will be equal. And if GW equal to G, then the economy will grow with the steady growth rate. There is no confusion. G will grow with the steady growth rate means there will be the steady growth rate. Steady growth rate. No inflation, no recession, and economy will achieve the full employment without any disturbance in the economy. That is the point which you have to understand under the first condition. Now, I will discuss the second condition here. What is the possibility? Think the second possibility. If warranted capital output ratio is higher than actual capital output ratio. What does it mean? In that sense, you know, if this is higher than that one, if saving is equal, if this is higher, means it will create the problem what? GW less than G. Warranted growth rate is less than actual growth rate means national income generation will greater than capital formation in an economy, or you can say aggregate supply of the goods is less than aggregate demand of the goods. That will lead the economy toward inflation. Towards inflation. Student, try to understand this point very, very clearly. As you can see, during the second 5-year plan, during the second 5-year plan, which was based on PC Malnovis model, as our government decided to invest huge funds in basic and heavy industries. As you know, the capital formation were taking long time period, but it was generating shortly income in the hands of society, or you can say simply, technically you can understand the capital formation taking place a long time period, or you can say capital growth rate was less than income growth rate. As the government implemented different kinds of multi-river project during the second plan, iron and steel industries which are taking more time period for the establishment, say 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years, etc. That kinds of delay in the completions of the different kinds of project are creating capital, or capital formation rate was less than growth rate of national income, means aggregate supply of goods were very, very less than aggregate demand. Shortly income are reaching in the hands of society and they are demanding the different goods and services, but in the market the availability of goods and services were not according to the demand. Ultimately results was what? During the second plan, general price level increased by 39%, or you can say 8% per year were the rate of inflation, high price rise. I explain the conditions of second plan on the basis of this Harrod model. You can understand the relevancy of Harrod and Domer model. Means our actual economy were facing the recession due to that kinds of conditions. Now you are clear. I can also explain this point with the help of simple diagram. Just you can see, say on y-axis this is the time period, and this is on y-axis we are taking actual growth rate and warranted growth rate. Up to a time period, maybe actual, this is say warranted growth rate, and this is say actual growth rate. But in my recent explanation, as I give you the explanation here, next one, so that you can understand what I taught and what I like to conclude for you. Next, unfortunate conditions. Yes, this point. Why inflation is there? Come on the issue. I am talking about this condition as I discuss here. Means if our warranted growth rate, actual growth rate greater than warranted growth rate after the T time period, OT time period, the economy will come under the inflationary condition. And these inflationary conditions will consistently increase, as you can see again in third plan, due to two war against the Indian economy. Second plan were completed 1961 and third plan were completed 1966. Since 61 to 66, we faced two drought years. We faced 62 war with China, 65 war with Pakistan, two war were there. All that kinds of conditions again fail the supply side economy, means demand were increasing due to government investment in different projects, but the supply of the commodity were not increasing. Ultimately we face that kinds of hyperinflationary conditions, as I explained with the help of this Harrod model. Now you can see the third possibility. What is the third possibility? If GW CR is equal to S, as you know, and G C is equal to S, if C is greater than CR, means CR is less, you can conclude here that GW is equal to S upon CR, G is equal to S upon C, and if our CR is less, the same rate of saving and investment, then GW will be greater than G. Is it? If warranted growth rate is greater than actual growth rate, you can say the capital formation, it will motivate the entrepreneur to save more, to invest more, because they are achieving their target due to their expectations in the market. Ultimate outcome is what? Capital formation will be greater than national income generation, or you can say aggregate supply of the goods will be higher than aggregate demand of the goods. That will lead the economy towards the recession. Towards the recession. Now you can understand how smartly and strategically Harrod successfully explained why the economy sometime enter into the recessionary conditions and sometime they enter into the inflationary conditions. As you can see, presently global economy for the financial year 2024-25 expected to be grow only by 2.9%. 2023-24 it is growing with 3% according to International Monetary Fund World Economic Outlook report, recently report given by IMF. What does it mean? Why the recessionary conditions prevailing in the economy? Because of that kinds of factor you can analyze yourself. Now, for the solution of the problem, means sometime there is the recession, sometime there is the inflation. Ultimate target is what? That is steady growth rate. For the purpose, Professor Harrod developed his third equation, that is natural growth rate. GNC are equal to or not equal to S, where GN represent natural growth rate. This natural growth rate depends upon multiple factor like population, technology, capital, etc. etc. This natural growth rate equal to S upon CR, that is equal to S upon CR, and natural growth rate is the upper limit of growth rate, upper limit of actual growth rate. You memorize this point. You have to understand this point. In any economy, population, technology, availability of capital, all these factors will determine the actual growth rate in our economy. As you know, India is the capital deficient country, and if India is the capital deficient country means what? Our actual growth rate always determine the deficiency because of deficiency of capital, and it is always less than natural growth rate, always less than natural growth rate. What I try to explain you, suppose this is the natural growth rate, this is the warranted growth rate. Now the upper limit of actual growth rate determined by natural growth rate. If the second condition, if our warranted growth rate is this, say this is natural growth rate, then the upper limit of actual growth rate determined by natural growth rate. This is the point which you have to understand. If in an economy the condition is that is G is equal to GW is equal to GN, then the economy will grow with steady growth, which is known as knife edge equilibrium. KNI, knife edge equilibrium. Why this is the knife edge equilibrium? Because if once it is disturbed, either the economy enter into the inflationary conditions or recessionary conditions. That is why Professor Harrod suggests that there should be the role of macroeconomic policy, which is known as monetary or fiscal policy, to equalize the both, that is actual and warranted growth rate. If once there is the disturbance, then they can't achieve or restore their steady equilibrium or growth with full employment. This is also the relevance to understand why sometime our economy face the recessionary conditions and sometime inflationary conditions. As you can see, recently monetary policy, you can link that kinds of questions. Recently interim budget of the government of India. Interim budget is nothing, only the fiscal policy. Monetary policy declared by the Reserve Bank of India accordingly, monthly basis, timely basis. There is always, they are maintaining constant different kinds of monetary norms. As you know, recently monetary policy declaration in February 2024 by the RBI maintaining repo rate at the same level 6.5%. Other monetary variables also are constant as they were in previous monetary policy. It means somewhere government are very sensitive regarding the price rise in the economy, and they like to maintain between 2 to 6%, in between 2 to 6%. Similarly, if you go through the budget or interim budget of the government of India, fiscal reform of the government of India, they further decided the fiscal deficit up to the 5.1% in 2024-25 financial year, revenue deficit 2.8%. Why they are decided and why they are targeting? So that they can achieve the target of steady growth rate in our economy. What is the other possibilities? As I priorly explained, that if there is the disequilibrium between C and C, if C and C are actual capital output ratio, warranted capital output ratio, both are equal, then we will achieve the steady growth rate in our economy. Once this equilibrium is disturbed, either there is the recession or inflation, which you can understand by the help of simple explanation. If I say what? That this actual capital output ratio greater than warranted capital output ratio. What does it mean? Our prediction means entrepreneur predictions, entrepreneurs expectations in the market. What they are thinking that CR, if it is less than C, what they will do? They will take more investment decisions. Output in the economy, then in that conditions what happened? You can yourself analyze. Actual growth rate will be less than warranted growth rate, and as you know, the upper limit of upper limit of actual growth rate, upper limit of actual growth rate determined by natural growth rate. It means in these conditions Gn will be greater than Gw. Means population is higher, technology is higher, capital rate is higher. Under this condition, you can further analyze the national income growth rate is less than capital formation, or you can say aggregate supply is less than what is greater than aggregate demand. That will lead the economy towards the recession. In this condition, G is lesser than GW, and as you know, Gn also lesser than GW. The condition will be very simple, that is, say GW, say Gn, and this is say G. That will lead the economy towards the recessionary conditions. Second, possibilities which I explained priorly, you can see if an economy C is less than CR, what does it mean? The actual growth rate will be higher than warranted growth rate, and if actual growth rate is higher than warranted growth rate, then definitely natural growth rate will be higher than GW. It will lead the economy towards the inflationary conditions. That kinds of explanations you can also understand with the help of simple diagram, that is natural growth rate, that is warranted growth rate, and this is G. Means after a period of time, the economy will face the inflationary conditions. That is time, this is G, GW, Gn, inflationary condition. On the basis of his explanations, what is the conclusion given by Harrod? Harrod conclude that the main objective of the government policy should be equalize the C and CR, so that the economy can grow with the steady growth rate. As you understand, with the help of this today model, some extent is it technical and maybe some common student are not understanding. For purpose, I again say you know my name is Tejbir Singh, teaching 25 years to the civil service aspirant, and you can go our YouTube channel, the Economica, and you can go through multiple times on this model, Economica IAS. And if you have further confusion, you can contact me 9999237051, or you can join our classes accordingly, so that you can understand that kinds of technical